The Palestine Solidarity Committee has launched campaign protest in Cape Town against what they say call Israel apartheid and settler colonialism. Usuf Chikte, the coordinator, joins us to unpack the campaign further. Usuf, good afternoon and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers.
At this point, are you seeing enough solidarity coming forth in and outside of South Africa in your plight?
Yes, our campaign is essentially to bring an end to the apartheid in Israel and the settler colonialism. And there's an enormous amount of solidarity, and we value that in South Africa. We know in South Africa that during apartheid years, solidarity from overseas provided us was the oxygen which sustained us. And that's the same way in which the Palestinians consider themselves in this battle of where they've been trying, where the mainstream media is trying to cut them off and trying to change the narrative of what has actually happened. If you look, there's a difference between the support of governments and the support of people. The Palestinians have the support and the love of the people in the street, in the Arab street, in South Africa, from the civil society, in trade unions, and from various other groups, even religious, but also religious organizations, faith-based organizations. We've seen recently how the Anglican Church bore testimony and stood up as witnesses to what is happening over there and the cry of the Palestinians. So we're quite confident and we're quite happy about what is happening with the support that we're garnering. But of course, the price of keeping this point of view alive is vigilance. We had a great meeting this morning outside the court where an anti-apartheid activist was murdered, who the judge ruled, Judge Tolari ruled that he was killed by the police. He didn't die of suicide. Imam Abdullah Harun, and it took us back to the period in South Africa, to the dark days in South Africa. But the message from Imam Harun was never give up. Don't surrender to apartheid. Fight on. And as we dismantled apartheid in South Africa, we're going to dismantle it in Palestine. And we've got other meetings also on the go. We're going to protest again on Wednesday, where we're going to highlight the audacity of the South African Zionists who want to recruit South Africans to be part against the national laws of the country, to be part of occupation forces in contravention of the Foreign Military Assistance Act.
Yes.
And we're going to ask the South African government to expel the Israeli ambassador from South Africa because he's peddling apartheid and he's peddling all kinds of connections and links and spy networks and military contacts and illegal activities that we insist must come to a stop. So we feel upbeat about it. On Friday, we're going to have an interfaith gathering in Claremont. There are various denominations and faith-based groups who have identified their support for us. And we have the moral high ground. South Africans have the moral high ground as we've shown during this period. And we won't allow the Hasbara and the South African Zionist Federation to write a false narrative to feed the South African population.
Thank you for those sentiments. Let me come in there because for those who've just tuned in, I need context. What are the main issues that need to be looked at when addressing the Israel-Palestine conflict? I'm asking this because I also want to look at the role of BDS, boycotts, divestment and sanctions, the movement itself and how that also fits into what you're trying to achieve.
So what is happening is that the Palestinians are finding themselves in a cruel system of discrimination, which according to international law is called apartheid, right? Apartheid with a settler colonial underpinning, and they also suffer, they are treated unequally. And as Judge Dennis Davis, a High Court judge in South Africa, has said, they treat the Palestinians, the Israelis treat the Palestinians as Untermenschen, subhumans. Now, that can't be in the 21st century, that you can treat and systematically treat a section of the native population or the native population of Palestine as subhuman, where you pull them out of the land, dispossess them of the land, and expel them. And look at what's happening in Gaza. You know, they've embarked on Gaza has about 2.1 million people in a small stretch of land. And they are under the siege of Israeli apartheid, and they blocked all water, they blocked all fuel, they blocked all electricity in there. What does a population do except to rebel against that? And they asked us for help as South Africans, and South Africans have a moral duty to support them in the battle against apartheid, because we have made some progress along this. So what we want to do, we want to call upon the international community and the South African government to spearhead this, to boycott and divest and sanction Israeli apartheid, because they cannot commit such war crimes with impunity. They must be brought to book. The rules apply to everywhere, to everybody. If Russia invades Ukraine, Russia gets sanctioned. The people come to rally to the defense of the Ukrainians in Europe and in America. Why is it when a non-European country, when Palestine, if you're not a European person, why is it if your country is being invaded, and if you are being attacked, and if you are bombed, they've bombed about 500 buildings in Gaza at the moment. Why is it that we don't have that kind of empathy with people outside of Europe? So what we're saying is that we must stand up for the Palestinians who are subjected to a cruel system of discrimination. They're being expelled from their homeland, they're being ethnically cleansed, and they're under collective punishment, which is an international war crime. And that we must put a stop to it, and the African government must assist them. Why? Because they assisted us. And because we know and we understand what it is to live under apartheid. And the point is here that the Israeli ambassador is peddling, and the Zionist Federation is peddling a form of apartheid where they want to try to block us in terms of our freedom of speech, in terms of our assembly, and they label us the most horrible, wicked, false kinds of things. They in order to silence us and to deflect from what they are doing over there.